When recording or mixing percussion instruments, always be mindful that the percussive transient is extreme, typically about 9 dB above the average level. If you're using analog VU meters, this is very important because running percussion instruments at 0 VU or above really means that the recorder is getting plus 9 dB or above. Notice that in this example of recording percussion, the levels are not very strong. First, they don't need to be. In a session that's moving fast, it's not worth trying to take advantage of every data bit because there are too many unknowns, especially with a percussionist who is moving around the kit throughout each tune. It's better to be conservative in setting levels than to overload the recorder's input. Second, you'll discover that even when the levels look low, there is still plenty to work with in the mix. If you avoid setting levels too hot, you'll also be guarding against overtaxing the output of your digital or analog mixer. So this session is held at London Bridge Studio in Seattle, a very nice room. It's got a large room that sounds excellent. The percussionist is Jeff Bush. He's a Seattle local, and he carries along a lot of instruments, and a lot of percussion instruments are things like tin cans taped together with who knows what inside, and keys and jingles and all sorts of different ethnic drums, African drums, anything they can come up with. And it's a pleasure to work with an excellent percussionist because they add a lot of color and personality to a project. The mic setup we have here is, for a close mic, we're just using a Beta 58, a Shure Beta 58 moving coil dynamic microphone. And that's because they work well in a close miking situation, and also they have a presence peak, and on the conga they sound great. A little bit of extra snap out of the drum, out of the hand hitting the drum. And I usually just use one between the two and balance the two drums that way. If there are 3 drums, I might use more. But if there's 2, one seems to work great. I also like to have a pair of small diaphragm condenser microphones back a few feet to be able to capture the range of space that the drums and the percussionists take up. Also, in a room like this that sounds excellent, I like to put an omnidirectional large diaphragm condenser microphone pair. I'll look for a spot. If you're a producer in a room, a lot of times it's advantageous to just ask the house engineer where he or she would recommend. The first instrument we're going to listen to is a little hand drum, like a tambourine without the jingles. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about here. The first pair we're going to listen to is the small diaphragm condenser. I have a little bit of the rhythm section back there so you can have a musical feel for this. So the fact that those mics are back a few feet, you can hear a little bit of the room, but it really does sound nice and still very, very close. So here is the close mic, the Beta 58. You can tell that that's a close sound, but it doesn't have near the personality that the small diaphragm condensers, which I believe we used 4041s. And here are the U87s back in the room. Notice too that on a lot of these percussion parts you'll hear the percussionist's feet tapping, or you hear him kind of making noises somehow around the sound, and that's just part of the part, that's what makes it different than a drum machine. We can keep that ingredient that's like, well, that's really cool. And you can listen to him and tell that he's right in the pocket with everything he's doing. So if we blend these together, and I kind of like that sound, but maybe pull the room mics back a little bit. I don't know if we need this spot mic. And sometimes with these you can go ahead and, you know, check for phase alignment and see if it helps. You know, part of the beauty of creating a sound is that it's different. So sometimes it's that phase interaction that someone might consider incorrect that really kind of makes a difference. So let's listen to the big, there's a big hand drum or round drum, African drum that he uses. Here, let me pull this up. You really have to be careful with something like this. The low end can be a problem. So the stereo pair just gives us a nice, very nice tone. And this has to be, of course, in tune with the song somehow. A lot of times you filter it out, but it has a nice sound. Here's the spot mic, which is kind of right in front of the opening of the drum. And then the room. It's nice. You know, the other thing that I wanted to take a look at was, you know, some shaker parts. Rooms. You know, a real percussionist playing a shaker is a lot more fun than somebody just pressing keys on a sampler. Notice the feel of that. So percussion is fun. We could go through, he had thousands of possible combinations of instruments, but I think you can see that with a few pairs of microphones, you can do an awful lot with percussion. And if you hire a good percussionist, it goes down quick and easy. So I recommend that.